Lee Summit is your destination for big city vibes and small town charm.
Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Lee Summit, Missouri.
I'm Assistant Chief Jim Eden.
And I'm Battalion Chief Ben Hicks.
And today we're at Lee Summit Fire Station 3. Fire Station 3 was part of the 2016 no tax increase general obligation bond for public safety initiatives. The station was built and occupied in August of 2020. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we've not been able to give tours or have an actual ribbon cutting. So we want to invite you in today to give you the opportunity to see what goes on within a Lee Summit Fire Department station.
Let's go take a tour. This is our admin side of the facility. We use this side mainly for offices. We have a lot of work during the day, whether it's training or doing reports or just generally taking care of the shift that we need to do. At this particular station, Station 3, we do have an assistant chief that works out of here. That person has their own office where they need to manage what's going on throughout the day with the shift and staffing, and as well as running calls out of here. The captain has their own office as well. What the captain does is at this specific station is in charge of both the fire truck that's here as well as the ambulance. And so with all those personnel responsibilities as well as running calls and reports, that's where they work out of. And generally for the rest of the crew, which is somewhere around 5 to 6 individuals, we have rooms to write reports, and we have additional training rooms and other rooms where people can work. Walking into our living area, I think it's important to recognize that we work 48-hour shifts. So in the evenings, after 5 o'clock, after work is done, we may have the opportunity to catch a game or something else as long as we're not running calls. And this gives us the opportunity to do that. When we go into our kitchen, I think this gives you a great reason to know why we go to the grocery store. When you see fire trucks at the grocery store, what we're doing. Also, for 2 days working for 48 hours, we buy all our meals at the grocery store, and then we come in here and cook. Just like you guys do at home. So everybody has their own fridge on each shift as well as their own pantry, and then we cook those meals here. Going into the sleeping side of things, we've got a couple different things that are significant. We have our own laundry room, which again is important when we're here for 48 hours. The opportunity to wash and clean our clothes and bedding is very important for hygiene. And walking into where our beds are, we keep the kind of sleeping quarters over on one side of the building. It gives us both easy access out to where our fire apparatus are, as well as kind of keeping it a little bit quieter for those people that have been up all night running calls. We have 11 bedrooms here at this station, and the reason we built it with so many bedrooms is we want to give ourselves as a city the opportunity to expand. So if we need to put another apparatus here or numerous other people working at this station, that's already in place as far as infrastructure goes, and we don't need to go back and try to make it bigger or better, and that's really important for us, especially because the old station was so small. Back out on the apparatus floor, we have doors facilitated as many places as possible, so that way when we're sleeping at night and a call comes out, we can make our way out fairly quickly to get out onto the truck if we need to and run a call. On the other side of the station, we kind of have other stuff that we may want to keep separated if we want to. Physical fitness is very important to us as firefighters. So in order to better ourselves and make sure we're as healthy as we can to do this job, we have our own gym facility here that we kind of go throughout the day when we can and get an opportunity to come in and work out. Our goal when we run calls, when we get back to the station after calls, our goal is to get ready to go back as soon as we can to run another call. So we have the opportunity or capability here to fill up our air tanks. You see firefighters wear the big air tanks on their backs, and they use those in a fire. We can come back and fill those up and make sure that we're ready to go again when we're wanting to go run another call. We have our own workshop here. We work on a lot of our tools and making sure that everything's clean and operational, and this gives us the capability to do that, again, to make sure that we have everything we need and we're as capable as we can be running calls throughout the city. Cancer prevention is very important in the fire service right now. Because of that, we have an extractor machine, and what this does is gives us the capability when we come back from a fire, we can put our bunker gear into this machine and get all that really nasty crud off of our gear. Again, kind of getting back into that cancer prevention mode, allowing us to be as clean as we possibly can for the next call. And finally is our bunker gear room. We each have our own individual locker. This gives us the opportunity to store our gear when we're not here working in between shifts, as well as keep a clean extra set on here in case we do run a fire and we need to clean our current gear. Typically, this is where your day starts off at the fire station. You come in and get your gear and put it on wherever you're working that day, and then you end the same way, bring your stuff back to your locker to go home after working. This is Med 3. This ambulance just currently moved into the station from Station 7. Station 3, since we've had it built, has turned into one of our busiest stations in the city. Therefore, we wanted to provide the best care in the closest unit as we could. So we moved one of our ambulances up, and this became Med 3 for this particular instance. Out of this station, we also have Pumper 3. And that's a fire apparatus that they utilize to run the calls on this west end of the city. The last vehicle that you see is the chief's vehicle. We have 2 shift chiefs on shift every day, and they split the city. And this chief running out of this station typically covers the west and south area of the city, while our chief of Station 2 covers kind of that northeast section of our city, and they divide it up evenly.
Thank you for going on a tour with us today. If you have any other questions about the Lee Summit Fire Department, please go to our webpage at lsfire.net or follow us on Facebook at Lee Summit Fire Department.
Thanks for joining us on the tour.
Traditionally, we think as police officers, those responding to law enforcement needs within the community. But honestly, we are there to serve our citizens, and our citizens do go into crisis. They do have mental health crises, and we're being called to those scenes on a regular basis. In order to help serve those citizens better, we did initiate the Crisis Intervention Team Program. These are officers that are specially trained to de-escalate crisis situations. Recently, we've brought co-responders onto the scene, licensed qualified mental health professionals housed within our police department, and they respond with those officers directly to those scenes where a crisis is occurring so they can interact with that citizen and get them the help they need right there on that scene.
The co-responders are either bachelor or master level in a behavioral health related field. They wear plain clothes, they don't carry weapons or anything like that.
I have a police radio that I listen to all day. Listen for, those key words: mental health, behavioral health, crisis.
There's a lot of officers that just call for me. I have my own radio number.
I also have the ability to self-dispatch to them and say 982 is en route.
Officers en route, 914, Armstrong.
So typically I arrive after they've made it safe. I'll make contact and get kind of the rundown, and then I just kind of jump right in.
I'm like, hey, my name's Allison. I'm a mental health professional. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to take you to jail or arrest you.
Sometimes all a person needs is a voice, someone neutral, someone outside that, can listen. I do a lot of safety planning, including family, their support network, who's close to you. If they're home alone, who can come over and hang out with you today? Can we lock away your sharps? Can we put up your meds? Do you need meds? Can we get you over to the urgent care to get you assessed for your medications? Some of them also are like, oh, I'm so glad you came. This made me feel so much better.
Our main goal as co-responders is to, one, get people connected to the services that they need, and also divert from emergency rooms and jails.
And they almost get a different view of the police responding. That lets me know you care and the officers care.
Please, please, how can we help you?
My husband has...
In 2020, we had 722 mental health related calls for service. 2022, by that time, 1,479. These mental health related calls for service are increasing. How we're responding to that is increasing the number of crisis intervention team officers we have available, as well as the number of co-responders we have available to respond on these calls.
So what I think is important for the community to know about the co-responder program is that we're here, we exist. All you have to do when you call 911 is ask for us. Say, hey, I want a co-responder to respond to this crisis, and we'll go. I was really struggling about 8 years ago on my personal journey with mental health, and I met some amazing social workers and amazing programs that have helped me get to where I am today. I really couldn't see myself doing anything else. We want to help, and that's what we love to do.
So I had a client, we got a call, she had some suicidal ideations, and she really felt that she had nobody. And and getting to know her story and getting to know who comes around and sees you, well, then we found a support person and they responded immediately. And we made a plan. I called back and checked on her in an hour, and then I checked on her in 2 hours. We were able to get her into the additional services to where she talks to someone every week or more. I just took a person that really just thought they had nobody and nobody would show up for them, and show them you do. And you'll be amazed who is in your corner if you just simply say, I need a little help.
It's extremely rewarding overall. Just the fact of working with other council people and other volunteer commission members that are so involved and care so much about making this community better. It sort of kind of lifts your own spirits by being involved in that kind of environment with other people like that. For many years, I was a typical resident, raising a family, going to work, in many cases leaving the city for employment, and went through a leadership class through the chamber, learned a lot about our city and learned about all the great amenities and resources we have, and was asked if I was interested in volunteering on a commission. I said yes, and kind of the rest is history. I've just completed my 3rd year on City Council, and so looking forward to finishing strong with this first term, and look forward to continuing to serve this community. My thing is there's so many talented people in this community that believe in so many different initiatives, and for me, one of the big reasons why I decided to run was that as a residential taxpayer, I felt that we can always increase the business tax base of our community, and that's kind of been a big part of my involvement on City Council, is to encourage and promote and make it easier for development to occur, commercial development to occur in our community, to increase that tax base and diversify that tax base. And so I think we've made significant strides the last few years. We've had a collective great group of council members and mayor where we've really truly accomplished a lot of things that there were somewhat kind of stumbling blocks for previous councils. Working new contracts with our union personnel, firefighters and police was a big accomplishment for us. The fact that we were able to push along some initiatives like the downtown renovation for a market, a farmer's market. It's been a great experience to be part of those meetings, to help nudge it, and to the point where now we have a developer involved is just a great feeling to have been part of that. And others, I mean, I think our park system, we've continued to support our park system to add a new community center, for example, that we negotiated with the Metropolitan Community Colleges. So I'm proud of all those things and just being able to help make a difference in many aspects. I love definitely spending time with my family. We have 3 daughters and they're all fairly active, in some in sports and other extracurricular activities. But for me, I love being outdoors. I love the trails, I love riding my bike, and I love playing golf. And we have awesome amenities and options within our community to have that kind of a lifestyle. This June will be 25 years that my wife and I have lived in Lee Summit and have raised 3 daughters in this community. I know this city has incredible, talented residents that come from all different walks of life, very diverse group of families in our community that it's so rewarding to be involved on a government level or some kind of civic commission or committee that in many cases you get out of it more than you put in. And I truly live by that, and I believe that.
I'd like to call to order the Lee Summit Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, September 14th, 2023. Could I get a roll call, please?
Mark Kitchens.
Present.
Cinda Rader.
Present.
Jake Lovelace.
Present.
Dana Arth. Donnie Funk.
Present.
Terry Trafton.
Present.
Tanya Jonna Ford.
Present.
Randy Benbrook.
Present.
Chip Tuzinski.
Thank you. I know no changes to the agenda. Can I get a motion for the approval of the agenda as published, please?
Chair, I move to approve the agenda.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Can I get a vote on approval of the agenda?
Mark Kitchens.
Yes.
Cinda Rader.
Yes.
Jake Lovelace.
Yes.
Donnie Funk.
Yes.
Terry Trafton.
Yes.
Tanya Jonna Ford.
Yes.
Randy Benbrook.
Yes.
Thank you. And the agenda has been approved. We will move on to our next item of business. Item number 4, public comments. Do we have any comments from the public outside of any of the applications we're going to hear tonight? I see none, so we will move on to item number 5, approval of the consent agenda. The consent agenda contains one item, and that's the approval of the August 24th, 2023 action report. Could I get a motion on the approval of the consent agenda?
Chair, I move for approval of the consent agenda.
I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Can I get a vote on approval of the consent agenda?
Mark Kitchens.
Yes.
Cinda Rader.
Yes.
Jake Lovelace.
Yes.
Donnie Funk.
Yes.
Terry Trafton.
Yes.
Tanya Jonna Ford.
Yes.
Randy Benbrook.
Yes.
Thank you. And the consent agenda has been approved. We will move on to item number 6. That's our public hearings. And we will open up continued public hearing application PL 2023-151 preliminary development plan, Streets of West Pryor, lots 11 and 13, 1000 and 1020 Northwest Pryor Road, Streets of West Pryor LLC applicant. This is to be continued to a date certain of September 28th, 2023. Can I get a motion, please?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue public hearing application number PL 2023-151, preliminary development plan, Streets of West Pryor, lots 11 and 13, 1000 and 1020 Northwest Pryor Road, Streets of West Pryor LLC applicant, and to a date certain of September 28th, 2023.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Could I get a vote on this application?
Mark Kitchens.
Yes.
Cinda Rader.
Yes.
Jake Lovelace.
Yes.
Donnie Funk.
Yes.
Terry Trafton.
Yes.
Tanya Jonna Ford.
Yes.
Randy Benbrook.
Yes.
The application has been continued to a date certain of September 28th, 2023. Item B in our public hearings, we will open up continued public hearing application PL 2023-053 preliminary development plan, Kensington Farms, second plat, third plat, and future phase revised architecture, Inspired Homes applicant. Anyone wishing to speak and provide testimony on behalf of this application, please stand and be sworn in at this time.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you. If you give us your name and address for the record, please.
It's Reagan Long, 5361 Thien Street, Shawnee, Kansas. Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. So tonight I'm going to defer to staff. They prepared a memo, so they're going to present on that, and then I can answer any questions you might have following that, and then I have the product we're going to use for the wood accents if you'd like to see it.
Okay, thank you. Hector is presenting. Oh, Ellen is going to come up and grace us with her presence.
Good evening, Dawn Bell, Planning Manager. Please enter into the record Exhibit A, list of exhibits 1 through 19.
Exhibits 1 through 19 noted and entered into the record.
You guys have already heard the presentation from Hector, so I'm not going to go over everything that he went through at the last Planning Commission meeting. But he did prepare one extra slide that provides the details of what the applicant has provided for us. So basically, they provided details on the LP Smart Side engineered wood products. These products are identical or equivalent to what you usually see in new construction that we see throughout the city. They've given us details on the warranties and the specific types that they're using. So I think she's brought some samples. So if you have any questions, we'd be happy.
Thank you, Dawn. Anything from the public on this application? I see none, so we'll open up to questions from the commissioners. Commissioner Kitchens.
No questions from me, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Rader.
No questions. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Lovelace. Good. Commissioner Trafton.
No questions, Chair.
Commissioner Bimbrook.
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Jana Ford.
No questions from me, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing else from the commission. Appreciate you bringing in the specifications. I think that satisfied everyone. I will close the public hearing and I will open up for any comments or a motion on this application. Commissioner Bimbrook, could you get us in a motion?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I move to recommend approval of continued application PL 2023053 preliminary development plan, Kensington Farms, second plat, third plat, and future phases, revised architectural and inspired homes applicant.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Could I get a vote on this application?
Mark Kitchens,
Yes.
Cinder Rader,
Yes.
Jake Lovelace,
Yes.
Donnie Funk,
Yes.
Terry Trafton,
Yes.
Tanya Jonna Ford,
Yes.
Randy Benbrook.
Yes.
Thank you. And the application has been recommended for approval. Thank you for putting this together and bringing it back to us. We will move on to item C, and we will open up continued public hearing application PL 2023-130, rezoning from AG to CP2 and preliminary development plan Cowboy Car Wash, 3601 Southwest Hollywood Drive, KC Cowboy Properties LLC applicant. Anyone wishing to speak or provide testimony on this application, please stand and be sworn in at this time.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you. The applicant has a presentation for us.
Good evening. How are you guys doing tonight?
Please give us your name and address for the record, sir.
My name is Mike Bisher. My address is 1952 Homefield Estates in O'Fallon, Missouri.
Thank you.
Surprised I got that right. We just moved about 3 weeks ago, so I'm still memorizing it. We are proposing a car wash on the south side of Lee Summit. I've got a red arrow pointing in the general direction of where this is going to be at. I've got an aerial view. The yellow box is the proposed car wash. You can see some of the surrounding businesses, the Summit Crest Plaza, Arby's. We're right at the intersection of Missouri 150 and Route 291. This is a site plan of what we're proposing. You can see we have two entrances off of Summit Drive there to the south. Just to the south of us, I believe, is an approved Whataburger, if I'm not mistaken. We are lining up our entrances with those to make traffic much simpler and less dangerous. Do have a slide of what the car wash will look like. They have basically a glass front that will be facing Summit Drive, so you can kind of see all the cars going through it and all the equipment inside. I do have slides of what the material of the building is going to look like, and without going through all the crazy details, I think I'm going to leave it up to the board with any questions, detailed questions that you might have.
Thank you. Now, Mr. McGuire.
Good evening, Commissioners. Shannon McGuire, Staff Planner. Please enter in record Exhibit A, listed exhibits 1 through 17.
Exhibits 1 through 17 noted and entered into the record.
So again, the applicant is before us seeking approval of a rezoning from Ag and to that CP2 and approval of the proposed PDP to construct a car wash. The building is going to be about a little over 4,800 square feet. There will also be vacuums associated with that. As you can see here in the overall zoning map, they are surrounded on the east and the south with CP2 zoning. North is a vacant agriculturally zoned piece of property, and to the west is PMix, where we have a church and there. The applicant is correct. Whataburger has been previously approved directly south of them, with the Arby's here, Strip Center, and then Walmart here. Currently, the 2021 Ignite Comprehensive Plan land use map does identify the site as residential 3 for the future recommended land use property. In conjunction with this application, the applicant has proposed a comprehensive plan amendment, and we'll get into that in a future hearing here later tonight. They are proposing to reclassify that from that residential 3 to commercial. Comp plan does promote various strategies to build long-term economic prosperity in the city to help the resiliency of the city's economy. One of those objectives established by that comp plan is to stimulate continued economic development and investment by that private sector. So by investing in developing this long vacant piece of property in the city, the applicant is meeting that. The subject site is also within the M150 corridor overlay. In that overlay, there is a land use map in there as well. That land use map does identify this site as commercial office retail. So it is a little contradictory between the comp plan and this one. The proposed use is in line with this particular overlay map. This category promotes retail, services, and office uses in this area. Again, the proposed land use is in compliance with the recommended use and does meet all the standards as established by that CBO. Again, they are proposing a rezoning. They are going to rezone the entire piece of property, not just the property that the car wash is on, from that agricultural to that community commercial district or CP2. The intent of the CP2 district is to provide for a location for full range of office and retail and service uses that services the general needs of the public. Should the rezoning and PDP be approved, the proposed car wash project will meet the UDO requirements and will provide a service at the community. The proposed zoning district and use is consistent and compatible with the uses in the surrounding CP2 district, specifically to the south, the east, as well as the recently approved McBee's car wash that's gone a little further down, 150. It's also in that corridor. Site plan here again, as you can see, the applicant did state there's 2 entrances to the south here off Summit Crest Drive. They are in line with the entrances to Whataburger site. The overall site of the car wash is about 1.5 acres. Again, the properties or the building size is going to be 4,881 square feet, 26 feet 4 inches tall, with an FAR of 0.075. They are providing 24 parking stalls. So, along with the PDP, the applicant has provided a conceptual site plan that shows how the remainder of the property to the north of the car wash could potentially be developed in the future. As you can see here, they are showing a very large 23,000 square foot building and 122 parking spaces that was able to serve that. So just want to point out that this is just a conceptual site plan. Approval of the PDP does not entitle them to build anything here. A new PDP will have to come back and be approved prior to any development on this portion of the project. So building materials to be utilized in the design of the building include stucco, metal panels, some exposed steel, glass, and a polycarbonate roof. The materials are compatible with the design and construction of existing buildings in the immediate area as well as throughout the community as a whole. Again, like we've seen with many other applications, metal panels are restricted or additional material. The UDO does restrict building materials in this zoning district to masonry, concrete, stucco, and glass, or as approved by the city council for the metal panel. Same justification that we've used in the past. This is a good material. We're seeing a lot more of it. Recently approved projects include the fire stations, the libraries, churches and car washes and car dealerships. Staff does support the use of that particular material. In previous conversations of car washes coming through, there are were questions regarding the noise levels of the vacuums. So the applicant did submit a manufacturer spec sheet for the vacuum pumps. So I went ahead and mapped the decibel levels for you here. As you can see, the red spots, red rectangulars are the locations of those vacuum pumps. The yellow border is where the noise reaches 65 decibels. 65 decibels is that threshold of the UDO allows at a receiving property before it becomes a violation. As you can see here, the 65 decibels not leaving their site. At 150 feet, it is 55 decibels, which is just slightly less than normal voice conversation. So off-site, it's no more than us having a conversation today. There are two conditions of approval, and so with these conditions here, and as outlined in the staff letter, the application does meet the requirements of the Ignite Comprehensive Plan, the UDO, and the Design and Construction Manual, and I can answer any questions you have at this time.
Thank you, Shannon. Anything from the public in regards to this application? Time, I will move to the commission. Commissioner Jana Ford, do you have anything for us?
No questions, Chair.
Commissioner Benbrook.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Shannon, quick, can we bring up the site plan that shows the alignment with the proposed or the approved? There we go, perfect. Do we know the width of that street that's between the two?
Summit
What is
Crest
that?
Drive.
Summit Crest, yeah.
Not on the plan sheet, but I can.
Well, I'll get on to my question. Seems to me like I remember when we looked at the Whataburger that they proposed unloading their truck on the street, not pulling onto the site, which means they're going to be parked at that curb. And they're going to unload their materials on a walk path through their parking lot into the building. I'm going to make the assumption that this truck driver is not going to park on the correct side of the road. That he's going to pull in and park on the side of Whataburger. If he comes in on the east entrance, if he comes in on the west entrance, he'll be fine. But he's going to be parking at that south curb. I'm assuming between the two drive lanes or entrances. So what is that going to do for traffic, as we know, on days after it rains, coming in and out of that car wash if a delivery truck pulls up there and stops to unload?
So short answer, that would be a problem. I don't recall them saying they were going to unload and offload on the street.
I'm pretty sure that was the agreed upon because there was no way for a truck to get in and out of that Whataburger. Am I incorrect or am I correct on that?
I think they did testify that they were going to load in the street.
Yep, I'm pretty sure that's what I remember.
We did measure that, and Summit Crest is about just under 40 feet wide. So that's plenty wide for two directions of traffic and a truck parked there.
Okay, 40 feet, that makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. Do we foresee any issues with traffic going around a truck that's parked along that curb? Is there any precedence where we've had that in Lee Summit and it's caused accidents or caused poor visibility with people coming in and out of those entry drive lanes?
You mean if they're parked between the two entrances?
Yeah.
I think there's going to be light enough traffic that it's probably not going to be an issue.
I'm glad to see you got a big stack coming in. If it was a little bit closer to the road, I might disagree with that, but okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. And a question for the applicant real quick. I don't know if we could pull up an elevation real quick. Sorry, I guess got a few very specific questions. Otherwise, I'm not. All right, perfect. All right, so front elevation in between the steel, I'm assuming that's going to be storefront glass?
Correct.
Okay. Out of curiosity, because I'm a little bit familiar with some of the chemicals used in the car wash, do you have some sort of cleaning maintenance that's going to be done on the inside of that glass to keep it looking decent? I know a lot of times car washes will have some sort of filter because of all the lime. I just want to get you on public record that if you're going to filter it or clean it, that it will look decent all the time.
That's a great question and a horrible question for a civil engineer. I do have my architect that is on Zoom. Can you swear him in, please? At Mayor, yes, ma'am.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, yes.
Thank
All
you.
right, Matt. Oh, sorry, Chair. Did you?
Can you give us your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is Matthew Mayer. My address is 4400 Sandberg. That's St. Louis, Missouri, 63127.
Thank you.
All right. I don't know if you caught the question, so I'll repeat it real quick.
I did. I
Okay.
did, and I can't give you a definite maintenance answer to that question, unfortunately. And my developer is unavailable to get me an answer. So I can't give you a for sure.
Okay. Do you know if they use any kind of filtration when it comes to the water that they're using?
Yes.
Does it remove?
Yes, and at some level, Mike Bisher could speak to the reclaim system. I don't know if you can completely, but I know water's all being reclaimed and filtered.
What about filtering before it's used, though? To filter out the hard water. That's the concern. Hard water gets on glass, it messes it up pretty bad. This is obviously going to be a lot of water floating around inside and got direct access to the glass.
I will make note of that.
So
that it's a concern.
What I'm hearing is that it's unknown. We don't know what the cleaning schedule is, and we don't know if the water's filtered prior to use. Is that a correct statement?
That's correct.
Okay.
That is a correct answer. Yeah.
Okay.
Statement.
Thank you. Sure.
Pam Hatcher, 1403 North Madison, Raymore, Missouri, 64083. I am the actual listing agent for the property. I'm also the property owner of Lot 1, where Whataburger is located at. I also happen to have a son who is the car wash guru, Kansas City, and builds the car washes for North Point Development. I will commit to you and the Planning and Zoning Commission that he will be involved to ensure that a filtration system is placed for the water coming in as well as going out. I know exactly what you're referencing and I understand it completely.
Thank you. That's the only questions I have. I'll refrain anything else till comments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Afton.
Thank you, Chair. My question is about those polycarbonate panels on the roof that you're using, would that be for Mr. Mayor or, okay, I'm seeing a shaking head from the civil engineer, so thank you. I am curious about the quality of the product that you're using for that, just knowing like what's the typical use life and care for those panels. It seems like they would potentially break down and have problems fairly quickly. What do you know about it?
So this is somewhat of a prototypical design. You've got an entry and an exit, and then the tunnel itself are those segments between columns that I don't know if you guys can pull up the floor plan. It's a generated prototype and metal building essentially from a company called the Car Wash Buildings. They have provided this system throughout Texas, Colorado, many states north, and it's my understanding that it's not an issue whatsoever in deterioration or
That those
any
multi-wall polycarbonate sheets, or like what's the quality and grade of them? I have a concern about.
I can reach out to the Car Wash Buildings company and get specifications for the polycarbonate roof.
I mean, because basically it's plastic. I don't know. I'm guessing you guys use it in all your car washes. I'm thinking that
That's my understanding,
several
yes.
of these cowboy car washes all over the gym.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I just have a concern about, 5-10 years from now, that's going to look horrible. And what's the plan to maintain them and or replace them as needed? Because, we don't want it looking shabby.
I completely agree and understand.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
No further questions, Chair.
Thank you. Continue on with questions, but it seems that we've need some clarification on a filtration system the applicant doesn't have. We need some specifics on what kind of roof that we have. I'll keep note of those and we can discuss and maybe about what we want to do with this application. Commissioner Levels, Commissioner Rader, Commissioner Kitchens.
Nothing, just for discussion when we go there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Circling back, Commissioner Jana Ford, I can't see you, but I'll just double check, make sure you didn't have any second thoughts.
No, Chair. Thank you.
All right, nothing else from the commission. I will close the I will close the public hearing and we can open up for discussion or a motion on this. Commissioner Kitchens, you had something for discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. So one thing about a lot of the questions we have here is the durability and longevity and the appearance of this, which I totally agree with. My question, I guess, is just open for the commission, and if staff wants to interject, David, you might want to get ready to answer some. Is this something that should be put up into the special use permit portion of this? Or is this something for approval of the plans? In other words, can we use maintenance in the special use permit on the opening of it? Because I agree, these car washes, I've seen them run really well, where they sparkle and shine and help the city out. And then I've seen them get pretty run down, pretty darn quick. So anybody on the commission or staff? David?
I think we still have some questions, unanswered questions, and the ability from the applicant to answer the questions doesn't seem to here tonight, of understanding what this roof system really is, what type of material, what's the longevity, and it doesn't appear they have a filtration system, or maybe they do, they don't know. I think push this down the road until we get
Agreed, Mr. Chair.
the applicant can come back with those type of things.
Amy Nassif, Deputy Director of Development. Sorry, excuse me. Amy Nassif, Deputy Director of Development. Understand, appreciate the questions tonight and the concerns. Couple things that we were discussing, and Mr. Busha can chime in as well if I miss anything. But one thing that we would like to offer, instead of holding this project with the rezoning and the preliminary development plan, we can get that information, work with the applicant on that, and then provide just a follow-up to you all.
I think we would rather have it in a public hearing so we can have that material in front of us and we can ask questions and we can understand what it is.
Okay.
So we'll just continue it.
Okay.
Is that fair enough?
So you always have the option to continue the application. You need more information to make a decision. One of the things that we'll be talking about in the future, so at either the next planning commission meeting or possibly the joint city council planning commission meeting in October, is general topic would be scope of questions and the general issue of making a land use decision versus making an applicant decision. One of the things to keep in mind is that you have a particular applicant in front of you right now advancing this application. It could be that another applicant, another property owner develops this based on whatever the parameters of the approval are. It could be that they develop this, then sell it to another company. And so whatever answers they provide on the topics of window cleaning, water filtration, placing panels on the roof, durability, longevity, all of those answers could change if you have a different user. And that's always an option. An option meaning it's always a scenario that could happen. So the relevant point is to focus on the land use decision as opposed to the applicant decision and the applicant's specific answers to those questions.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, to interject, but David, how does that work with a special use permit then? Can requirements on maintenance and facilitation be tied to that instead of to the rezoning?
So generally, same issue is at play. It could be that another company operates the building. So there's a number of scenarios that could play out. It could be that the applicant that's advancing the application is not the actual developer of the property. It could be another company. They could develop the property and sell to another user. It could be that this company doesn't develop the property, but the SUP and the zoning still apply to the property, and it could be another company. So the point is, their answers to all these questions could change.
Between the lines, or at least how I would view, Mark's question, it would be, can we tie specifically those different things to the special use permit, regardless of who holds the special use permit? So regardless of who the owner is, can we tie those different criteria to the special use permit? Because absent of that, if we had concerns over it, what we would do is we would reduce the period of time that the special use permit was granted significantly, right? 20 years, I believe, is what this one is requesting. And so, at any rate, those are my thoughts.
I think too, if for the special use permit, if it was, if we did the stipulations in a more generic way, where that it could apply across the board to any applicant who or any individual who ends up then developing the property, then that's a little bit more attainable than tying to the specific applicant, if that makes sense.
But the special use permit follows the property, if I remember correctly. It doesn't matter who holds it.
Correct.
So even if they end up selling it, the special use permit is still attached to the property. So the development, I understand these rezoning, we can't tie things to that. Once it's rezoned, but that special use permit we can tie to whoever owns it. Therefore, if it does change hands or anything like that, these questions that we have before us should be tied to the special use permit instead of the rezoning. Am I correct?
So I guess I'll say in theory, yes, you're making a recommendation to the city council. The city council could add additional conditions as deemed appropriate based on your recommendations. One of the issues then this discussion kind of bleeds into is property maintenance code. So if there's ever a condition on the property where it doesn't meet the property maintenance code, then we would open property maintenance code violation case and prosecute it. Now you're talking about pretty granular distinctions between, are they maintaining the property in a condition that violates the property maintenance code versus it's not to a standard that you're thinking of right now where it starts to look kind of shabby, whatever that.
But I think our point, sorry, Commissioner Trafton, is not a property maintenance code. It's understanding we have something before us, and I understand we're talking about a land use, but they're proposing a building that we don't know what materials or filtration system they have in it. I guess is the concern that I'm gathering from the commission.
I think we're also talking about the preliminary development plan and the UDO standards and what's required for building materials, and currently glass is required. So does the applicant want to replace the polycarbonate panels with glass? I mean, we know the longevity of that, but those glass panels could break. I can understand why they want to use polycarbonate. The city also, staff recommend and notes that these polycarbonate panels are used in other parts of the city. Do we have examples of where that is used?
Polycarbonates, I don't have examples of in the city. The other materials we do throughout the city with regards to the metal stucco. So I know there are, in the metro, there are car washes that do have this on.
Yeah, it lists churches, car dealerships, and fire stations. I don't know of any that use polycarbonate panels. You're talking about metal, though?
Yeah, that's with regards to the metal panels.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I see it above there. Thank you. Sorry. Polycarbonate. Right. I mean, there may be other car washes that we have in the city that have them.
Chair, one item that I just wanted to just offer, put on the table, in lieu of maybe continuing and holding tonight, one option maybe to try to address some of the concerns was if there's a specific like year or time frame, like concern with the material, I'll start with that one. So if there was a concern that, for instance, it's not going to be a hardy material like last like the typical minimum of 25 years, we can always do a stipulation in the special use permit that says material in the building to be used will be a minimum 25-year, life warranty guarantee. And then also what we can do with the filtration is just require with the SUP that filtration system will meet all code requirements and be installed with the property. And then that way it will be required of the applicant.
And I think we
add
would
it.
like
Just
to
wanted to throw
understand
that.
what that filtration, not to be argumental,
No.
but the applicant is unprepared. We don't have the material. We don't understand the material that they're putting on here, and they're presenting something to us that they don't even know they're putting a filtration system in. I think is the concern for
And the
preliminary.
code doesn't stipulate a requirement for
I just don't
filtering the
understand
water.
what the filtration system does. We are putting a filtration system in.
You're putting a reclamation system and you're catching water that's used in the
Correct, and
car wash
reclaiming it.
and you're
Yes,
reclaiming it.
absolutely,
I'm
and
talking
so-
about before that, before it even goes on the cars. You got heavy lime in the water around
I'm
here.
with you. So
Okay,
we are willing to do whatever the city asks us to do. We are not demanding that we get away with anything. So
we're not saying that. We're
okay,
trying
that's
to
fine.
understand.
We just want to make sure that you're aware that we will be happy to put a filtration system in, however you guys require it.
And
as far as the roof and the material goes, we will be happy to, meet that 25-year requirement. If this is the product that does that, we will prove it to you. If it is not the product, we'll be happy to change it and satisfy whatever you guys need. We're not trying to, pull anything over your eyes or anything like that. We're just trying to meet.
That's not.
No,
Yeah,
there's no accusations of that.
Okay.
What we're asking is what is the material? What's the thickness? What's the longevity of it?
Understood, and we'll
that
be happy to get you
information's
all of
not
that.
Here, so I don't know. I mean, I think you're asking us to approve a preliminary development plan of a product that we know nothing about.
And correct me if I'm wrong, aren't the elevations tied to the preliminary development plan?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so if it's tied and we approve it, and then they go and build this thing when we don't know what it's going to look like with the polycarbonate. I mean, I'm familiar with polycarbonate, and I'll tell you right now, it doesn't weather well, and it's cheap, and that's why they use it for greenhouses. It doesn't weather.
So say
But
that again.
If I
It's
can
tied.
continue, sir.
Oh,
Please.
sorry. Go ahead.
And so the reservation is if we approve the elevations, they're approved. They're tied to the preliminary development plan. It goes to a final development plan and it goes on. So understanding the maintenance of this and I don't want to get stuck on the filtration. I don't even care if it's filtered as long as they clean the glass. I mean, you've got a brand new building going in across the street of Whataburger. It's a newly developed area. And if we eventually get this building built and there's no cleaning schedule, the storefront's going to look like garbage in 6 months if they're not filtering the lime, if they're not cleaning it, and you got a brand new business across the street. Those are just concerns. And personally, I don't feel comfortable just passing it with a bunch of stipulations if the applicant doesn't even have that information for us. Those are legitimate questions. If I was the building owner across the street and I just spent $5 million on a Whataburger, I would want to know that the caution is being taken with the building across the street from me, so my customers aren't staring at messed up glass and broken polycarbonate.
So are we, so what staff is asking is we don't continue it? That you said you would like to move this on.
Add a
I mean,
stipulation.
I think we can move it on, but I think you're gonna get a bunch of no votes.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Excuse me. I was just offering alternative and suggestions just for conversation to see if it may help the conversation or may help to, with any concerns. If not, it definitely, certainly is your prerogative. If we do go ahead and hold it this evening, we would like to hold all three cases since they're all tied together.
But if,
I think you offer a interesting opportunity, although we just did this with the last applicant that we just approved because we wanted to see what kind of hardy board they're going to put on the side of a house. It's a similar concern about you're building a building and you want to know how it's going to weather, you know, what the warranty is on that product. I mean, we have no idea. So, I mean, we already have a precedent. I understand about moving it forward, but I would like to have a little more information about what kind of product, since we're making an exception here. This is not even an accepted product in the UDO. So, which we probably should be addressing, right?
Yeah.
so at this,
Thank you.
I mean, I think right now where we are, if we continue this, we continue them all, correct?
I just want to clarify on Mr. Trafton's comment there. Since this is a roof material, it doesn't apply to the wall material of stucco. So it is an accepted roof materials.
In the UDO, the polycarbonate is an accepted roof
Roof
material.
material, and that's what they're using. It's a roof material, not a wall facade material.
Yeah, okay, so
Thank
my
you for that.
question is there's a lot of polycarbonate, some rated for roofs, some not. So is there any stipulation, I'm assuming when it goes through plan review, are they gonna, since this is a pre-engineered, I'm assuming the polycarbonate is pre-engineered, all that, are they gonna, is planning department, or not planning, code review, are they gonna look at that and require it? Because I can also tell you this is an enclosed structure, they've got no insulation in the roof. That goes against building code. So I don't know exactly how this is gonna meet. Maybe it's because it's unconditioned space, but I would really at least like to know that this is a polycarbonate required for a roof surface, not a wall surface.
Commissioner Benbrook, your motion.
I think you know which way I'm going with it.
Sure.
Chair, I move to recommend continuance of application PL 2023-130, rezoning from AG to CP2 and preliminary development plan, Cowboy Car Wash, 3601 Southwest Hollywood Drive, KC Cowboy Properties LLC applicant to a date uncertain.
Do we want to shoot for a date, or do we want to leave it up to the applicant to get this information?
One option is always just you can continue to the next meeting. And
Okay.
if they're not ready, continue it again. If they are ready, then continue and presumably wrap up at that point.
The next meeting.
September 28th?
Anyway, okay, continue to a date of September 28th, 2023.
September, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second, could I get a vote, please?
Mark Hitchens,
Yes.
Cinder Rader,
Yes.
Jake Lovelace,
Yes.
Johnny Funk,
Yes.
Terry Trafton,
No.
Tanya Jonna Ford,
Yes.
Randy Benbrook.
Yes.
The application has been continued to a date of September 28th, 2023. But do we need to continue all of these applications? Okay.
Guess the question would be, do you want to continue them outright without having the public hearing? Continue them at the end and once I get the presentations, or just continue and then we'll hold the public hearing?
So, sorry to interject. Procedurally, we do need to open each hearing and then
Yep.
continue it.
Yep.
To make sure we've complied with the
I don't
notice
think
requirements.
I don't think we need to have the public hearing. I think we just continue them, and then when it comes back, we'll work our way
I'm
through.
good either way.
Okay. We will open up application. I got to get you on this. Yep. We will open up continued public hearing application PL 2023-130, rezoning from AG to CP2 and preliminary development plan. Sorry. Yes, sorry, Jake. I skipped you. We will open up continued public hearing application PL 2023-132, special use permit for car wash, Cowboy Car Wash, 3601 Southwest Hollywood Drive. This application is to be continued to a date continued to the date of September 28th, 2023. Commissioner Kitchens.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to, do I just continue it there, or did you make the motion?
Nope, you
Yeah,
make
okay.
the motion.
I'd like
Go.
to make the motion to continue application PL 2023-132, special use permit for a car wash, Cowboy Car Wash, 3601 Southwest Hollywood Drive, KC Cowboys Property LLC, applicant to a date certain of September 28th, 2023.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Could I get a vote, please?
Mark Hitchens.
Yes.
Cindy Rader.
Yes.
Jake Lovelace.
Yes.
Donnie Funk.
Yes.
Terry Trefton.
Yes.
Tanya Jonna Ford.
Yes.
Randy Benbrook.
Yes.
The application has been continued. We will move on to item E, continued public hearing, application PL 2023-133, comprehensive plan amendment, change in land use designation from residential 3 to commercial, 3601 Southwest Hollywood Drive, KC Cowboy Properties LLC applicant. This application is to be continued to a date continued to the date of September 28th, 2023. Commissioner Benbrook.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I move to recommend continuance application PL 2023-132, special use.
133.
Oh, sorry, 133. Comprehensive plan amendment, change in land use designation from residential 3 to commercial, 3601 Southwest Hollywood Drive, KC Cowboy Properties LLC, to a date of September 28, 2023.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Could I get a vote, please?
Mark Hitchens.
Yes.
Cindy Rader.
Yes.
Jake Lovelace.
Yes.
Donnie Funk.
Yes.
Terry Trefton.
Yes.
Tanya Jonna Ford.
Yes.
Randy Benbrook.
Yes, sorry.
And the application has been continued. We will move on to, we will open up application PL 2023-162, preliminary development plan, tailor-made landing, 1600 Southeast Hamblin Road, Engineering Solutions LLC applicant. Anyone wishing to provide testimony or speak on behalf of this application, please stand and be sworn in at this time.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Good evening. At Slish Engineering Solutions, 50 Southeast 30th Street, Lee Summit, Missouri. Ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we come tonight with a preliminary development plan on a project that we're calling the Tailor-Made Fieldhouse. So it is 1600 Hamblin Road. It's in an industrial zoned area, kind of on the southeast-ish side of site, or south side of the city. So for reference, where we are, Bailey sits at the top of our picture, 291's on off our picture to the left. I always call it the dump, but the transfer station or the resource recovery park, whatever we have to the south, the public works facilities to the south. Newberry and that type of stuff, and then all of the Century Drive, Broadway stuff up to the north, kind of all in an industrial area. So we have the bus barn, we have Evergy to the west, some agricultural uses to the south, some undeveloped industrial areas out in that side area. Generally, the site is this entire parcel. However, I'll show you a picture later on. That was an existing residential facility with a barn that in 2017, Taylor made exteriors, modified the barn, made it into a new office warehouse type facility for himself, kind of his contractor facility. So he's wanting to develop the northerly 4 acres of that site into this field house. As I said, the site's zoned industrial. The building will set on an east-west direction on the northwest corner of the site, generally in the neighborhood of just shy of 50,000 square foot. So again, there is Taylor Made Exteriors building that is their current office and facility that they utilize. The existing drive that comes off of Hamlin Drive that's currently existing. What we're planning to do is to develop a parking lot on the north side of it, some associated parking on the south side of it, essentially to create an opportunity to have 176 parking spaces out there. The idea inside the facility is there are 4 full-size basketball courts that can be converted into 4 full-size volleyball courts. There's an infield baseball area, so you have indoor training for inside infield area, and a concession stand. The idea being is there's not enough places to practice. There's not enough places for kids to play. This creates an opportunity for rental space for teams to come out and utilize the facility. When you're there, you have the parents, the kids, everybody else that needs to have a place to sit. So you'll see in here the benches, the places to sit with a little laptop or do homework. You have the concession stand that sits inside that provides just small drinks and snacks for the people as they sit there, helping the little brothers, little sisters as they sit. On the outside, it's a mixture of uses of materials, primarily metal panels on the upper, Nichiha on the lower side panels, and then there's a wood element that's also the Nichiha that brings in the front side. A mixture of glasses with some overhead doors that provide the opportunity to raise and lower for different times of the season when this facility can be utilized and use outdoor space. Inside, what you're seeing is the 4 court facilities that are developed with the infield for the baseball on the westerly side of the site. The development of this site, the ground grade basically drains from kind of the northwest to the southeast portion of the site. So the building is constructed primarily of a concrete foundation wall that runs the north and westerly side of the site. So it's almost like an earth contact built into the ground. And then as you come around, then that's where you start to see the metal panels and the pieces on the east and the southerly side of the site. This is an unusual use for any spot in the city. So there are a number of modifications that we're kind of working on. I think none of them are too wild or outside the box. And I think we've worked our way to get staff support on all of them. We can go into detail as you need to on any of them. This is just a regurgitation of what you guys have in your packet. But essentially the top of it is the rooftop screening needed to be screened. Technically, that would say that there needed to be a parapet wall around this entire building. The entire parapet wall around the 50,000 square foot building was obviously high expense, can be easily handled with a mechanically screened parapet basically put on the outside of the equipment to handle just the few rooftop units that are up there. So as staff says, they're in support of it, and it's an existing use or an existing system you guys have used, for example, at the Coleman Equipment Facility. There is a requirement on head-in parking. So as you look back at our site, as you come into the facility, this is a private drive coming into the facility. We have some overflow parking on the southerly side. Technically, code states that you cannot have head-in parking off of a drive when it serves 2 users. However, in this situation, our reason that we've done it is Taylor Made Exteriors obviously works Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. The facility will be off peak of that. We don't see the conflict. Additionally, you have some of these things as if you go up into Summit Fair or any of the shopping areas where you have some drives that have some head-in parking. Again, this is more the overflow and the transition times that if all 4 basketball courts and the infield are all working at the same time and they get an hour of rental, then I got 50 and 60 kids coming on and off at the same time. So it just provides an opportunity. So again, that modification request is something just to meet into code that we're trying to just cover. And then again, this is the same one you guys had earlier with the metal panels. It's not an approved material inside the UDO. However, you guys have used this numerous times throughout the city. And so we feel like it's appropriate use. But again, happy to discuss as we go through. And then there are 6 site-specific modifications for the project. Again, most of them are related to what we just talked about. The only ones that we'll bring up that we've asked staff to just modify the language slightly is that our intent is that this is a rental practice facility. So this is a facility that you're going to be able to come, rent your field, rent your court, and utilize it. It's not currently the intent to go out and have games or tournaments or whatever at the facility. It's essentially just the practice facility. So what we ask staff is we're fine with condition number 4 that just says we aren't going to have that. But what we ask is that we add just a little bit of language at the end that says if down the road there is a demand for it that we don't currently see, we come back through with another preliminary development plan, because there will be able to be associated parking improvements, be associated road improvements, other site improvements that will be necessary that would come back through at that time. So we're not asking to remove item 4. We're just asking to state, as we read that one, it feels like it's an absolute line in the sand. We just want it noted that if we ever chose to do that, we're coming back with another preliminary development plan. Additionally, on number 6, we're asking just to modify the language slightly, is that we're doing some improvements to Hamblin Road. Currently, it's 30 feet wide. We've been asked to take it to 36 feet wide. We're fine with doing. When we do it, we're going to remove the striping off of the Hamblin Road. We're going to recenter the center stripe to the center of the road now and maneuver it over. City traffic engineer made a good point that if you just remove the striping, it'll still appear there or seem like it's there if you just remove it and repaint it. And so in the request, it was a full width micro seal, which is one option, but there are other options that we believe we can do that can coat that surface, remove the look of that stripe being there. And so we're just asking that we just change a full width micro seal to the developer shall cover the existing markings to the satisfactory of the city traffic engineers. We develop plans and get to that point, because when you remove that marking, I'm sure you guys have all seen it when you drive down a road, you can still see it. We believe we need to get rid of it, but we believe there's other options that we can go through that side. So hopefully that makes sense. I was trying to make that as clean as possible. So we did have a community meeting or a neighborhood meeting. No one showed up as we were in the industrial park area, so we held it for nobody. And then just kind of an idea of what Rick and Rachel have done out here. So this is the site. So this is 2017 when this facility was there as a barn, an open field, and nothing there. And then now as you start to look at the site with the field houses to be developed on the north side, and this is a little premature because he does have paving around his building and it's not just dirt, but they've done a fantastic job out there in that facility and hope to continue to do it out there. So with that, I will stand for questions.
Thank you, Matt. Is staff has a presentation for us?
Good evening, Commissioners. Shannon McGuire, Senior Planner. Please enter the record Exhibit A, list exhibits 1 through 16.
1 through 16 noted and entered into the record.
So as the applicant stated, they are seeking approval of a preliminary development plan for a proposed 48,885 square foot basketball and baseball training facility or field house. The proposed building is surrounded by industrially zoned properties. Again, to the north, you have the Lee Summit South Industrial Park. To the west is the Evergy Maintenance and Laydown Yard, or Maintenance Facility and Laydown Yard. South is Taylor Made Construction Company and some vacant ground right there. And then east is the Newberry Landings kind of industrial development. The application, again, is seeking 2 modifications. Modification to the rooftop screening and a modification to the configuration of the proposed parking adjacent Again, the applicant did cover this, but the applicant has stated no tournament or gameplay will be conducted at the facility, and a condition of approval was added to the staff letter and the approving ordinance enshrining this requirement. Staff is comfortable with adding that extra language, so get to that towards the end. The 2021 Ignite Comprehensive Plan land use map does identify the subject's future recommended land use as industrial. The proposed training facility is consistent with this land use designation as recommended by that comp plan. Again, as I stated previously in other applications, objective of the comp plan is to stimulate continued economic development and investment by the private sector, and by the applicant choosing to develop this long vacant property, they are meeting. In the proposed baseball and training facility or field house is a use permitted by right under the existing zoning district. Typically, a development in a PI zone district only requires an FDP so long as they meet all UDO requirements. The reason we're here before you today with this particular application is because they are seeking those modifications, which does require your consideration as well as the approval of the city council. The proposed use is consistent, compatible with the industrial uses to the north, south, east, and west, and is a lower intensity use of the particular subject property than would otherwise be allowed by right in the district itself. For the aesthetics, I would classify it as saying it's more of an upscale warehouse aesthetic, and we do believe that it's appropriate for the area. It's a good-looking building. The material palette does include those architectural metal panels, Nietzsche Hall wall panels, concrete, and glass storefronts. Again, the architectural metal panels is a conditional material and does require the approval of the review of Planning Commission and the approval from City Council. So this material has been used throughout the community on multiple instances, including the previously application, as well as fire stations, libraries, car washes, and some churches. We'll get into the modifications. The first modification, as the applicant stated, is to that rooftop screening for the RTUs. As you can see here on the roof plan, it's a very large building, and to build a parapet wall around that entire perimeter, as UDO requires, is a little excessive and difficult to do. What they are proposing is to have the rooftop screening around the locations more inset and localized to the actual RTUs themselves. This is a modification that has been requested and granted in the past. And again, Holman Equipment is a perfect example of one that was granted where they a bolt-on type system to screen that. So for this reason, staff believes the modification is reasonable, and we do support that request. The second modification request is for head-in parking along the drive here. The UDO does limit head-in parking on public and private streets. As the applicant stated, the two uses are really complementary. Weekday for the construction company, nights and weekends, training facility. So really the drive is functioning more, or the private street is functioning more as a driveway for each use. The separation of the uses makes it more of a parking lot entrance as opposed to the private street type. The proposed additional parking is going to serve the use for any kind of overflow parking. And like as the applicant stated, if you look at the Summit Fair, they have the similar situation where the drives go through there. We do have kind of head-in parking through that as well. So for these reasons, staff believes the modification is reasonable, and we do support that. The applicant is going to landscape along that area as required by the UDO, so we are not modifying the landscape requirement. So the unimproved road policy does apply to this particular project. So the subject unimproved road is the development is subject to the unimproved road policy, considering the existing type or typical section and street classification of Hamblin Road. This is a policy that was adopted by the City Council and provides guidance for staff to use in the consideration of development and the impacts adjacent roadways, which are not constructed to an urban standard. Per the policy, an unimproved road is a narrow road in width that's less than 22 feet wide and is consistent with more of a rural character. An interim standard is generally defined as a minimum of two 12-foot lanes with 6-foot paved shoulders. Hamlin Road is kind of in the middle. It's 30 feet in width, but does not have paved shoulders. And so putting it somewhere between the unimproved road and the interim road. So according to the policy, no development shall be permitted on an unimproved road. The applicant has requested a waiver to permit the development on the particular property. The applicant is proposing to widen the road to that 36 feet and providing two 12-foot lanes with two 6-foot shoulders from Bailey to the south edge of their entrance, bringing Hamlin Road to that interim road policy. So from about this area here, you can see this red line that I have marked out here. That's about the length there, maybe just a little bit. So there are some conditions. Since Hamlin Road is low in volume and more of an industrial, staff is supportive of that particular one. So I just want to make note on here on condition 6, we have added that. That condition has been added to require development to be in accordance with the TIA or the traffic impact analysis. The approving ordinance has been updated to require that as well. That traffic impact analysis was provided in your packet. So with these conditions of approval here, as outlined in the staff letter, the application does meet the requirements of the Ignite Comprehensive Plan, the UDO, and the Design and Construction Manual. I'll also note that staff has talked with the requested language update on the conditions, and we are good with both. So for the condition number 3, originally it said at no time shall tournament play or gameplay be conducted at the facility. Some proposed language or some language that you might consider would be at no time shall tournament or gameplay be conducted at the facility unless new preliminary development plan is submitted. This time I can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Shannon. Anything from the public on this application? I think before I go to questions from the commissioners, Shannon, if you can, condition number 3, you have, I think it was number 4 on Matt's item was the no tournament, so that was condition number 3 in staff's letter. That language needs to be discussed, and then the markings, which I believe was number 6, staff is saying due to the nature of widening Hamlin Road, removing the current markings and replace them is not acceptable. All thermoplastic markings shall be removed and a full width microseal be done on the unimproved section of the roadway and new striping put down. So that was that's opposite of what you want. Correct?
But yeah, and that's what Shannon said, that they talked about that one, number 3 that is on here now, and number 7, and they're good with both of them. So the only item I would like to ask to change is shall be removed with the full width micro seal, and we just say removed to the satisfaction of the city engineer. So just removing this specific way to do it, I guess, of the coding.
Okay.
That's all I was asking on 7. And then 3, I just adding that unless the preliminary development plan is submitted and approved, is fine.
We're gonna try to make it as clear as can be for you. So we're adding you have in the staff report that we have number 6 is number 7, correct? 6. Yeah. Add that.
Maybe
Yeah. No, it's not in our.
It's not in your staff letter. It was added after. That's why I made note of it.
Okay. So I guess what used here a little bit of what Matt is asking and what staff is saying.
So Matt is asking that we remove the full width micro seal requirement and just make it a requirement to remove the scarification of the markings in accordance with or in as accepted by the traffic engineer.
Susan Berry, City Traffic Engineer. I'll try to clarify this for you. Basically, we have a 30-foot road. We're adding 6 foot on one side. So basically, the stripes are going to shift 3 foot, all of them, center line, edge line. And normally when you remove pavement marking, you scarify the pavement, okay? And it leaves a little 4-inch groove, not groove per se, but if it rains, you know, it's visible. You can't tell where the stripe's at, which is why I asked for the microsurfacing. We talked today. If there's an acceptable way to cover up that scarification, basically it takes off the paint, but it also takes off the asphalt. So then it's like white gravel, white aggregate. And so if there's a way that they can propose to make it so that you don't see double lines the whole way, then I'd be okay with that. So that's kind of the change that he's asking for. And, you know, I'm okay with that, assuming that he has a, you know, a product that'll give me the comfort level that in the rain, you're not going to have double lines everywhere.
Okay.
And the only caveat that they did is Shannon added number 6, which we're fine with. The 6 just brings the traffic impact analysis. It wasn't listed on the conditions, so we're fine adding 6. And then, yeah, then the language.
If you'd like, we can take a 5-minute break and kind of rewrite this for you guys so it's a little more clear.
That might help.
Staff would like a
I think
5-minute
it's-
break because,
from the-
yeah, we just got this last minute and we didn't have all of this, you know, until right kind of before the meeting, and we're happy to work with the applicant. But if we can take 5 minutes, that way we can get it all organized for you and put in a better package so that you have full awareness and understanding, and then easier for the motion, and then we can communicate with them. And it'll just take us about 5 minutes.
And can we, in that 5 minutes, so we don't have what Shannon had on there. We don't have the item 6 traffic impact study. Our item 6 is
Yes.
what item 7 is on there. So if it says in this specific, the thermoplastic marking shall be removed and a full width micro seal be done. So are we going to remove that?
We would like to talk with the applicant, and then we'll come back and propose. I believe that that step that you're looking at is not in the staff report, but it's in your packet.
Right.
Because it came to us a little late, but give us 5 minutes and we can answer all those great questions
Go ahead.
for you and give you
Hold on
some.
one second. Go ahead.
No, I think that's fine if that's, I mean, I think it's effectively, it's subject to the conditions. And on the 7. That, so if you guys want to take your time, that's fine.
We would like that, yes,
Okay.
because we didn't get this
We'll
last minute.
close the
Thank you.
public hearing for a 5-10 minute, let's call it 10-minute recess. Yeah. We will reopen the public hearing on application PL 2023-162. We haven't quite, I think I got us out of whack there, just kind of getting the clarifications on this. So I will look to the commissioners. Do the commissioners have any other questions? I have a couple. If you have, Commissioner Benbrook, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I guess this would be for staff. So the condition 3, no tournament play, is that primarily due to the parking condition?
Parking and road network condition, yes.
No other reason though, just that. So
And if you look at internally, the building's really not laid out real well for it either, so choose.
okay. And then to continue with that question, probably to the applicant, you said that you're adding this, or you'd like to have the verbiage that to do tournaments in the future, it would come back through for a new development plan. Is there land nearby? Do they own additional land to where that's a possibility to improve the parking to where it would meet that condition? Or is that just a, hey, we just want this so it's not a line in the sand as you stated?
So it's one of those things that on a project like this, you'd love to come in and build a field house, a facility that could facilitate all of it out of the gate. But, just like you're looking at the Bailey Road condition, we're building a 1/4 mile of roadway that's off-site, not all of it, 6 feet of it. But I mean, it's a healthy cost, a substantial cost. With this going to tournament play and league play, additional improvements come to that roadway, additional improvements come to the parking lot. So there is additional ground out there on site. So the same owner owns all the parcels. And so this is still vacant ground on the south side of it. So down the road, if it works out, there's going to be some modifications to the site that could potentially handle that, or whatever it may be, if we get to that point. We think that there's a super high demand right now. Anybody who has kids in sports understands getting field place for baseball infield facilities that are quality, or basketball, volleyball facilities that you can get on a regular basis are super difficult. So it's kind of a stepped process that, we'd love to have the opportunity to do it, but it's just the dollars get to where they are. So the idea would be is that there is ground out here that Rick and Rachel own, that we could continue to develop it if down the road we come. And that's the only reason you asked that condition, is we just felt like the first one was very not going to do it. And we just said, we just want to make sure that if it does, we'll come back with a PDP and go through it again.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Chair. That's all I had.
Commissioner Trapton.
My question was similar to that, but then I noticed that are they getting rid of the other southern driveway when they build this? It looked like.
No, and this one down here is my mistake of just being on the project too long. If you go back to 2017, that's the way we used to access the site. When it was developed, we moved it to come across and match up with the Newberry commercial facility, and that one was actually already taken out. So that is just me apparently being lazy on drafting and not taking out the old driveway on our old survey. So
Write that down.
yeah, lazy.
What? Okay, thanks. That was that question. The other question I have is, I don't know, it's not really related. It's kind of somewhat related, not really to your project. It's more to the city around Bailey Road, or not Bailey, Hamlin Road improvements. And was the streets, that's for you. It's was the street improved? Were the city improved down there when they built all those facilities and the dumpster? Was that road improved down there? Do you know?
I would have to look into that. That might be to an interim standard, but I'm not exactly sure. I can't answer.
Because I think I drive on that road and I don't think it's been improved to 36 feet. But I know the city has built facilities down there. So
That is true.
perplexed by that. And then also, is that road on the plan for improvement? The capital improvements plan it seems like I
Hamlin Road
remember
is-
something about it being improved.
No, not right now. Hamlin Road has not been listed as an improvement as of yet. I believe it has like 2,800 vehicles a day. It's very low volume at this point.
But I would say low volume, but volume of high kind of like heavy kind of traffic is what I'm thinking. Like dumpster kind of stuff because people are dumping
Very
things.
heavy truck.
So
It is, yeah,
Yeah.
it is not in the capital improvement plan yet.
seems like with the city's facilities down there, that it maybe should be something that we think about. So I don't know, something to
Well,
ponder.
there's pavement design and then there's the type of facility. And so when we talk about the unimproved road policy, we're mostly talking about the width, not the actual material that
Okay.
it's made out of.
All right, thank you. I think I made my point.
I have a
I've just
question.
been told it was 40 feet wide in front of the animal facility.
Thank you for
David, a question, and I have some questions. Don't run off.
Okay.
So we're gonna stay on this. David, is there the capabilities of, I know we don't get to make the final decision, that's above our pay grade. If we were to make a recommendation to, this road is traveled by trash trucks constantly going in and out of the facility. And potentially this developer could maybe have a better facility if they weren't spending this money on this. I know it's our unimproved road policy and I know we tackle this thing every 3 or 4 applications that come through. Can we make a recommendation to the city council to maybe bypass this unimproved road policy for a better facility and let them make the decision? Can we put that bug in their ear?
Not quite sure if I'm following your question. Is it connected with this project or are you talking about just a more general recommendation?
Let me come at it at a different angle.
Okay.
Matt or the applicant, would this project be a lot more substantial if the cost wasn't going into the unimproved road policy part of it?
Yeah, certainly there's a large expense for the Hamlin Road that we could spend on the building versus that road would be fantastic if we could.
So I guess my question would be, could we make a recommendation to the city council to look at the unimproved road policy portion of this project?
I think the general answer is yes. You can make, I mean, this sort of feels like it's off application almost in the
Okay.
sense that you're not really making a recommendation connected with the implementation of this application, but sounds like you're trying to say to the city council, we recommend you do something else to help the project.
Well, I think if, speaking a little bit out of turn, but I think if you had another transfer station that was being approved on the same site, where it was heavy traffic that was coming down there, it would be easy to say, hey, I think that to service all the traffic that's going to be coming for that use, that you should widen the road and you should improve it. But for this use, where it's a practice facility for kids in an otherwise industrial area, it's going to be, maybe more traffic counts as far, but they're, pedestrian vehicles, as opposed to commercial ones. I don't know if that's where you're headed. That's where when I think about that, why I don't think that it should necessarily be applicable in this particular application, that they should have to improve that entire section because of the use that they're having a quarter mile away from it. If it was a heavier use, sure. But in this instance, it seems a little bit excessive.
I think we're strapping, I'm feeling like we're strapping the applicant a little bit to hours of operation and what they can do in their facility because of cost, a financial bearing of improving a quarter mile of road. Or as Commissioner Lovelace said, pedestrian traffic when this thing is ran up and down all day long with buses and trash trucks and dump trucks and city trucks. So I think it was just I think we might have steered one way. I mean, the applicant may not want to run this facility all day long or do something different. I'm just thinking, I feel like we're containing them to nights and weekends.
So here's a statement, and then I'll circle back to your question. When city staff reviews projects, they're essentially constrained by the unimproved road policy, meaning they have to apply it. That's the city council's directive to city staff. And so that's what has happened in this case. However, if, again, I think I'm gonna repeat what you're trying to say, and you tell me if this is right or wrong. You're essentially asking, can you, as the planning commission, make a recommendation to the city council to not require that the unimproved road policy be followed in this instance to the benefit of the project? Accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Here's what I would recommend. It doesn't sound like that would be an additional condition per se that's attached to the list of conditions that travels forward with the recommendation. So my recommendation to you would be, go ahead and do your usual motion with the changes that we're going to talk about in a moment. And I mean, presumably they'll listen to this, recording, and they will hear what we just talked about. And so maybe at the end, if you'd like to restate what we just talked about and say, the planning commission also recommends that you consider this, city council. And we've pretty much said it here, so they'll hear this.
Well, and for the applicant, I think with this dialogue that we're having right now, they can turn around and then request at city council that they cut out this condition of the approval through city council if they want to allow that or not, correct?
Yeah, so I guess then the next step, and this is where I'd have to talk with city staff behind me to make sure this is packaged properly, but the applicant could essentially take that recommendation that you will be making and make a request to the city council. I'm not quite sure the vehicle to do that. That's where I'd need to talk with city staff team to figure out how to make that happen in front of the city council when this moves forward. That's the best I can say right now.
Thank you, David. Go ahead.
Can I interject since we're talking about this? So we had a similar condition on the north side of Lee Summit where developers and builders were allowed to not contribute to the development of the road. And we've got a 20-acre parcel now that nobody wants risk purchasing and building on because they'll be required to build literally a mile of storm and curb and sidewalk, according to the unimproved road use. And there's, a parcel that there's other problems with it, but nobody wants to build on it because of that risk. So my concern is if we don't tie some sort of improvement to this, that it's going to get kicked down the road and we're going to have the same condition. My other thought too is it's not just the trash trucks, but you got a lot of traffic going out Greenwood. That's a cut through for a lot of residents. And it's tied to traffic count, correct? Not necessarily size of vehicle, the road improvement.
The road improvement is not tied to the volume of traffic on the road.
Okay.
It's just tied to development will not be permitted on an unimproved road.
Okay.
So by letter of the policy, it would be updated to an urban standard. In this case, we didn't feel that was necessary due to the rural character of the road and the low traffic, the lack of pedestrians. That's why we're suggesting the interim standard as a more reasonable approach to the unimproved road policy.
So we're already reducing the requirement because it makes sense.
Correct.
I do have a follow-up question to my earlier question. So I understand now that the road was improved to 40 feet in front of all the city facilities south there. But why wasn't it improved to 40 feet all the way to Bailey, which now we're asking this applicant to do for a quarter of a mile to their property? When we know that we have heavy traffic, not a lot, but heavy traffic traveling that road. So I mean, I'm just curious about that, like how that decision was made.
I don't have the history on that. I'd have to look
I'm
into
just
that and
curious.
bring it back
Thank
to you guys.
Yep, and so to add to that, based on the limited knowledge of the people sitting here, I've been in-house 5 years, Dawn's been here much longer, but we're thinking that the unimproved road policy came into existence after that.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. Any questions? Go ahead.
Question for staff, Shannon, about Shannon, give you some reprieve. The parking counts, can you run me through the calculation on this one? Cause it didn't look like it was clear cut to me as far as why it was 176. It's not in front of me right now, but
So I know it'll go to shock you that we don't have a field house in our table.
sure.
So the requirement is for them to submit documentation showing how much they need and what will submit or what will satisfy their need. So that's the route we went here. So they came back with 170 standard stalls and 6 ADA stalls.
Okay.
The
And,
ADA stall set by a federal parking ratio count.
and so is the reason why and I guess maybe this is where I move over to applicant, please. So Shannon will jump over to question Matt. Did we do these direct pull-ins because you needed to be able to make 176 and that's kind of how you were able to get it? Or do you really believe that direct pull-ins are better than having angled parking on that?
Yeah, so the 176 kind of came from the idea that with the 4 sports courts that are out there, if you had a full team, some coaches there, and then you had the baseball facility with 10, 12 kids, coaches there. The trick is when one's going in and one's going out, we got an overlap. So we kind of just quickly played the game of how does it get to. So, that's kind of how we came to 176. So we think it takes care of the overlap. The reason that we did the straight head in parking here versus angles, what you're asking to,
Right.
is that it just is on the wrong side. So if we angled it, it would have to angle as you drive into the facility, come through, and as you're going back out, then you'd have to angle into those spaces. And so it just was on the wrong side for those to become angled. The traffic engineer made that kind of same comment too, and we kind of walked our way through it and looked at it and thought that for the overflow times, we think that that's a good, head-in parking will be the best situation. It'll work just like a normal parking lot, is our opinion.
Okay.
Commissioner Rader, you have anything? Commissioner Kitchens, you've been waiting patiently.
Yeah, just a couple questions. For the applicant, real quick, why isn't this racquetball courts? Just joking, just joking. But in all honesty, I love the project. I'm familiar with the property. Love what you're going to do with it. Real quick question about the parking coming through. My guess is we've talked about kids once or twice. You're going to be targeting some schools, some school teams, which I think is awesome. How are those buses going to get in and out of this parking lot? Are they angled enough for a bus to get around there, wrap around? Because I can see in my mind how we're coming in that first entrance, wrapping the school bus up there, team's getting out, and then that bus driver is going to make a 2 or 3 point turn to make that turn coming out. Or I'm not seeing it. That's very real possibility. So if you can help me out there, how are those buses getting in and out?
Yeah, so this turn here is a little tricky when you look at it from the sense of spacing and size.
Sure.
But what it used to be is a cul-de-sac, and so we had a cul-de-sac in there when we showed the fire chief that we could basically maneuver a fire truck through that same facility as we came through the site and were able to make that turn. So essentially, that's the size of it. While it is a little difficult to depict when you don't see the cul-de-sac side of it, it's the size of a normal cul-de-sac that you could come and make that full turn all the way through if you had a larger vehicle like that.
Awesome. Now watch this. Chief, stay right where you're at. Nod your head. Could we get a fire truck wrapped around there? We're good then. Thank you so much to the applicant. I won't beleaguer this any much. Beautiful property. Think it's really cool. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Jana Ford, we didn't forget about you out there.
Good. Honestly, I think Commissioner Brunbrook and Trafton kind of covered my question. My biggest one was about parking and then the no tournaments during hours. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. David, I'm not gonna beat up the whole thing on the unimproved road policy, and when we get to comments, discussion, I'll leave it up to the commissioners of how far we want to chase it. I think we've put it out there in the air that, it seems like we could have a better project here, or at least the ability to tackle this parking a little different and maybe some longer hours and get our youth in there doing more things. I think it seems if it was any other road, I probably wouldn't argue the point, but I think we're talking about Hamlin Road that's got trash trucks running up and down it all day long, and we're asking somebody to improve this thing that's probably going to get destroyed pretty quick. But anything else from the commission while we're in public hearing? Matt, Shannon, you guys are good? We will close the public hearing and open up for discussion or a motion. Commissioner Benbrook, any discussions on this?
Just a couple comments. I absolutely agree with this facility is a need in the community. I think it's fantastic. Thank you for bringing it to us. I'm good with the conditions as outlined, and thank you for bringing it to Lee Summit. That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Trafton.
Yeah, I just want to echo the other commissioners, and I think this is a, rock solid project. I appreciate you bringing it here. I know we need more facilities for our youth as the city continues to grow. I would like to, see it be able to have tournaments because I can see that happening fairly quickly, just knowing the limited space. So, I'll leave my comments there. I think, I've let the city know my thoughts around improvements on Hamlin Road, and I'm not sure that is something the applicant should bear at this time, just given all of the heavy traffic that the city is pushing through that artery. I know it's not high volume, but anyway, that's where I'm at with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lovelace.
So I also like the project. I appreciate the project. I wish you guys would have it open by this winter so that I could have kids playing sports in there this winter. So please put me on the list. I would like to see there have the ability to have some games there because I do think the volleyball courts and the basketball courts could be utilized. So if there's flexibility in that as far as a council to be able to approve that, I would appreciate it. I think the parking count, frankly, I think is actually a little bit excessive. I think you might be able to work out something where you have overflow that potentially would go to your other business since that would be off hours. And I'm not really a big favor of the direct pull-in parking. I would prefer that was angled. But otherwise, again, great project. Thank you guys. Be excited to see it.
Thank you, Commissioner Rader.
It's a great project and really glad that you're doing it because it's very well needed. We need a place for kids to go, more of those kinds of places. So thank you so much. Thanks, Chair.
Commissioner Kitchens.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a prime example of a great use of a property and really seeing some creativity behind it. So kudos to the owners, the developers. This was fantastic. I love the way it looks. I'm going to echo what Commissioner Trafton said. I do applaud staff for trying to come up with a little bit lower level of a grade so that it reduces the impact on the applicant. But I do feel that this is a bit excessive. And that's the city's position on that right now. So I get that. And we just need to talk about it and come up with a better idea, I think, moving forward. I do think that to have these roads undeveloped, though, would be a mistake as well. So if there's some sort of load sharing, I guess I could say, that we could do or work out in the future, I just think we're going to run into this quite a bit as we move forward. But I don't want to see unimproved roads, and I don't want to see applicants having to develop half the city out just in order to give us what we need in this city. Once again, to the applicant, fantastic project. Love it, and I'll be voting yes for it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Jana Ford.
Oh gosh, just call me a broken record today, but I'm gonna say I really like this project. I always feel strongly about community involvement, and this is a great way to get the little ones to get involved. That's how you start, with little seeds, little ones. So anyway, I love this project. Thank you for bringing it.
Thank you. The broken record part. It's a great project. This is awesome. I love anything we do for our youth in the city, and I hope our council members are listening or they will watch before this goes in front of council. I think this is a great opportunity for a city and owner developer partnership or something to come out of this to maybe we can help with the unimproved road policy part of this and allow the applicant to give us a little bit more there for our youth and be able to have some tournaments and some a little bit longer hours. So with that, I will turn it over to Commissioner Rader to give us a motion on this.
Thank you, Chair. I move to recommend approval of application number PL 2023-162 Preliminary Development Plan Tailor-Made Landing, 1600 Southeast Hamlin Road, Engineering Solutions LLC applicant, subject to conditions indicated on the screen.
Thank you. I have a motion, or excuse me, a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Can I get a vote on this application?
Mark Hitchens,
Yes.
Cinda Rader,
Yes.
Jake Lovelace,
Yes.
Donnie Funk,
Yes.
Terry Trafton,
Yes.
Tanya Jonna Ford,
Yes.
Randy Benbrook.
Yes.
This application has been recommended for approval. Thank you guys again, and you guys had to take up the tail end of it, so you had to wait the longest, so sorry. We like to do that to Matt anyway. Thank you. Dave picked that up and that whole thing looked like the creek.
Looks like our screen's falling.
Looked like it was topping over. Round table, anyone?
I have
Commissioner
something.
Rader.
I would like to ask if it would be appropriate if, in the future, for using Commissioner Benbrook's questions related to, in the application for the Cowboy Car Wash, for instance, the infiltration system, the exterior finishings, would it be appropriate for those questions to be asked prior to our meetings, just to be able to give those applicants a heads up? Because it looks like the last two projects we've had to go through, exterior finishes and those kinds of things. And I don't know that they would necessarily know the answer to, for instance, the infiltration system. They probably didn't think that would be something that would be, asked about. But it's okay. It's just, I'm wondering if that's appropriate to do that.
Amy Nassif, Deputy Director of Development. Wonderful question. So actually the answer is it'd be great to have communication with staff prior to the meeting. If you have any questions that you know of, I know sometimes questions come up in the middle of the meeting and while you're talking, right? But if you know something in advance and you don't see it in our staff report, we actually really highly encourage you to reach out to me. And we are happy to either get that information for you and then, or also we may already have it or know it. And the great thing too is when we know that in advance, if we don't have it or if multiple folks ask it or we're like, wow, this is going to be a hot topic, we can then share with the applicant, hey, get ready when you come to the meeting. Will you please also bring these items with you too? So in that way, it's a better meeting for you all as well. But it would be wonderful to have.
Yeah.
That communication is not just appropriate, but would be really encouraged and we would ask for it. It helps us quite a bit too. And then even we can tailor our presentation sometimes too. And then if we get a question, maybe the same question from multiple folks, we're like, oh, we're going to add this, or we better hit home on this. And even though we answered it on the phone, but you know what? A couple folks asked us, so we're going to also include it so that way it's on the record too. Things like that help us tailor things as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here.
I think, Amy, off of that, while you're here, and probably David, so the applicant's not here to defend themselves in any way, shape, or form, and it's nothing to go against the applicant, but to make sure we didn't go out of bounds, I think our concerns are legit, that we were asking to do a land use designation change, but also approve a preliminary development plan in the same token. And inside that preliminary development plan, they didn't have the product specifications, I think is more of the concern as far as the polycarbonate roof. I mean, are they putting 1/4 inch on there? They putting half? They putting clear? They putting tinted? I mean, I think that's just, that was my biggest concern, along with, I know Don and I spoke earlier in the week about a question, and staff did a great job of getting a presentation up there about the decibels. The roofing piece of it, I wish I would have caught a little sooner and we could have worked through that one, but I felt like those were legitimate reasons and we don't have that information. If there's a better solution to, as we did the previous application, we asked them simply bring us what kind of material it is. We all got to see the lifespan and everything. We approved it and they moved on. I guess, is there a better solution than continuing the application?
We can do a couple things. I'm sorry, did you want to go? Okay. We can do a couple things. I'm glad that you asked that as well. So we're actually going to be coming forward, I believe, on the 28th, if I get my report written, right, for the UDO updates that came out of CEDC. And one of those chapters and sections is about just updating and making some modifications to our architectural elevations and the submittal requirements. So that's going to be coming forward on the 28th. Also, what we can do, knowing that this is something that we're really interested in as well, we can ask the applicants to bring, if they have a material sample with them in advance, that helps too. If it's something like tonight, I think is to your question, it really depends on the question or the concerns you all have, because we definitely want you to be comfortable in the decisions that you're making. But sometimes there's a couple opportunities we can hold for, like, hang on for 5-10 minutes and take a recess and talk with the applicant. Sometimes it might be information that they do have, or they just had to get their items together, or something we might have, and just had to get that stuff together and then come back. Or sometimes a continuance, but
not have the real estate broker testify in a public
That-
hearing that she swears that she knows it all.
that-
Like, that's another
we also have. Or, I'm just kidding. So, and the other thing too, a couple things, we can always add the stipulations, just an example that I talked about. Like, if you're not sure the exact manufacturer, but you want, the siding or the material to be a 25-year guarantee or more, that can just be a condition that we add on. So we can add conditions, while we're here this evening. And then we also have the final development plan process too. So sometimes it might be things that we can just follow back. If it's a minor thing that still makes you feel comfortable moving forward, it can be something that we continue moving forward, but staff will get with the applicant and give you all an update, send you an email, or let you know at the end of the next meeting how that works. We can also stipulate it that it be added to any FDP. So those conditions or requirements will still follow with the process. They don't get lost, if that makes sense, and we will follow up with those, because we don't have the luxury, we wouldn't change that or anything too, but that final development plan process provides a lot more detail too. So there's a couple avenues. That helps answer.
Sure.
little
I mean,
bit.
I don't
Mhm.
think it's always our intent to want to continue something. I think it's the solutions. I mean, I think we could probably, I think if everybody's comfortable here amongst this group, that we stop and we have a conversation about what can we do to progress the application forward. But in this instance, I don't think they had any idea of what kind of roof they were putting on.
My question actually was, it was pretty innocent because I just was curious about it. You don't see that a lot, and I was like, what is that? So thank you, Shannon, for educating me on the fact that it could be used as a roof. I appreciate that. And, but it just kind of piled on and kind of uncovered some information that they could have been a little more prepared for. So thank you.
Thank you.
And if I could add to that, I know you're going to be presenting some things on the 28th, it sounds like, for changes. If I could just put my wants, my wish list out. I don't need a full specification on product. The previous applicant that came back tonight, if they'd have had, an engineered wood panel system, 25-year warranty, something like that, to give me an idea. Even the applicant tonight with the polycarbonate, hey, a 5/8 inch polycarbonate, 3-layer, 50% opacity, meet roof specification, just something, give us a little bit of idea of what it is, but not like a full specification. If we could kind of make that more of our requirements in the elevations and things, that would be fantastic.
Absolutely.
I think it would get rid of a lot of the concerns that we have.
Mhm. And a lot of that can be covered with, we call it, it's called an exterior material schedule. Schedule sounds like a weird word, but that's what they call it. And it has the manufacturer, the type, the color, and things like that on it. So we can easily, and that's
Yeah,
something
awesome.
people would be common in adding. So shouldn't be a problem.
How do you feel about finish boards? I've had to put several of them together for other jurisdictions when it comes to exterior materials.
They make really good decorations for offices afterwards. I'll tell you, my old office, I had it stacked like this high. So in several jurisdictions in my 22 years, I've required finish boards, especially for larger projects. And usually they have those sample boards with them. It's something that we can talk about. Maybe we'll reach out to several of our usual suspects, regular customers, and see if they would have any concerns with, but
So I think I might have lost some of the other commissioners. Is anybody else interested in having
my report's not written yet, so feel free
finished
to keep it.
boards?
Yeah.
Randy,
As a-
whatever you want, I'm fine with.
finished boards as a requirement.
You're the
for-
expert.
So
How about we get next time an education on it?
okay.
I would be okay with that.
Well, I like Amy's
Donnie's giving me a
idea.
dirty look, so he's probably.
I like,
No,
I like your,
I don't want to require, I mean, we want to do
No,
everything
I
in
don't
the
wanna-
world to attract developers to our city.
Yeah.
I'm curious
I
what
think
they would
it's
say when you
dependable
query.
upon- I don't want to require them to do that. I mean, I think if
Not a-
if they have if they're providing a material that's not something common, I mean, we know what, ethos is, we know what well siding is, we know what that stuff is. If you're coming with a vinyl siding or something of like, don't put vinyl siding. Let's see what it is,
Okay,
Yes,
so
and it's not uncommon to have material board samples, especially on larger projects. So it's certainly, instead of, we don't have to start with requiring it, we can dip our toe in the water and we can start asking developers if they have that information with them. They definitely should have the manufacturer exterior material schedule anyway, so. I don't
Tanya
think
has
we-
something to say, but
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna kind of bounce off of it. I love finished boards. I'm an architect too, so I'm very visual. I'm very tactile too. But I know sometimes it could be an inconvenience. So in alternative, I wouldn't mind if projects provided, here's I don't know, cement board, and then they provided visual presentations or precedents of how that material was used to give us a variety of how it could fit in our city. If finished boards are a little bit of an hassle, it's easy to plop the picture in and find other pictures that use that same material.
So this is what I'm going to say to that. This is going to be staff's best guess because Randy's going to ask about it. So is Tanya. Donnie doesn't care. And I am so clueless that if they bring it, I'll go, ooh, that looks pretty. Okay. So this is one of those staff is going to have to use their best judgment on a lot of this stuff. I know we want to have delineated requirements for you guys, but we're never going to have that. Okay.
Exactly.
It's going to be your best guess. And sometimes we're just going to continue an application because they didn't have the specifications on a filtration system. Now that seemed kind of out there to me. They should know if they have a filtration system on the front end or not. But that applicant's not here, so I'm not going to discuss that. But once again, best guess from staff on a lot of this stuff.
We are happy to do that, because as the technical reviewers and such, that's part of our job, is to get you the resources that you need and make those calls and decisions, especially on those complex projects, maybe not the smaller ones too.
And
And that gives leniency and flexibility, not just to the city, but to the development community as well.
And each of us has a different personality and skill set.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to get a lot of questions for Chief Eden from me, where Randy's going to ask ahead of time in a wonderful written out email to you. But the point is, it's going to be different for each case, and I don't think we're ever going to be able to put it in a box. But I think that's what makes it a great planning commission and one that gets proper projects done through and how they're supposed to be.
And I was gonna refrain from asking my last question to David. I think we talked about it last time. And I can hold off until joint city council meeting, but when we have a professional that's going to testify in a public hearing, I think it would be cool to have them present. I know we briefly touched on that before. I think stuck out here in Zoom world. I know it's great for commissioners and staff when we have colds and children and timing, but I think if you're coming to testify.
So there is a relatively new city code provision that was enacted as we came out of COVID and we all got very used to Zoom meetings and such. And there's a provision in there that basically says each board and commission has the option to select how they conduct their meetings. Can be in person, can be by Zoom, could be hybrid. This continues to be hybrid, just like city council meetings are hybrid, because that's the way we've been doing it for several years now. But you do have the option to go to all in person only if you'd like. If you want to move in that direction, I would recommend we talk with the administration department first to get their opinion, because arguably the city council and the planning commission are the two biggest meetings that we have on a regular basis. And so moving to a forum where you only have people in person and you eliminate the Zoom option, I think that should be discussed. But the city code provision says you have that option. Now, part two is what you're saying it sounds like the message should be from city staff to these applicants, have your professionals here. Unless they can't, like unless they're sick or something, and they do need to be on Zoom, you highly recommend they be here for their, to enhance their credibility, so you can see them and talk to them, and they can use the mouse and point to things on the screen. It's much better for the applicant for you to have that level of information in person.
I think Commissioner Lovelace made a good point. If the applicant for the car wash would have had their architect here, this probably would have been resolved. They probably would have had all the answers we needed. And
Yeah, I think one of the things that the planning staff can pass on to applicants on a regular basis is we strongly recommend you bring your full team, they be in person, you be ready to answer all these questions. We have a planning commission that asks a lot of questions, just like the city council, they ask a lot of questions. And if applicants aren't prepared, that's bad for the applicant.
everybody else good? Tanya, you good? He said, "The heck with it, I'm done."
Yes, sir. I'm good.
Thank you.
Anything on your end? Sorry, forgot about that. Dawn
How'd
wants
you
to tell
forget
us
about-
something? She's dying to tell us about the new person.
Okay. I would just like to tell you that Dawn wants to tell you about the new people, so
Okay.
then I'll do my thing.
Dawn.
We have a couple new members of our team. We have Ian Treffrin. He is the newest planner, and we have Grant White here that is the newest project manager.
Awesome. Welcome aboard, guys. Welcome to a relatively short meeting. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
This is pretty fun. They can hear you.
Mhm.
I'm just kidding.
This
Ian,
is
you-
par.
yeah.
Expect this.
Ian
Shannon's
was
not gonna have to present all the time.
Yeah.
Shannon's not gonna have to present every application.
Oh, I'm still gonna make him.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Sorry, Shannon. We are adjourned.
I had one
Oh,
more thing.
Sorry. We're not adjourned. I was kidding. Unadjourned. I like that.
This is no reflection on this evening's meeting, but I wanted to let everybody know. Next week on the agenda on the 28th, we were going to have Josh Johnson back in action and with David Bushik. We had not done yet like kind of a formal changing of the guard or passing the torch to Dawn and I. And so we wanted to take an opportunity to talk a little bit about some processes, communications, protocols. And so they were going to just spend some time a little bit and then answer any questions you may have.
One point on that, once again, when briefing the applicant, briefing them quickly on rules of Roberts, so we don't have them jump in when we're not in public. It seems to
Absolutely.
happen more often now. So just a real quick brief on rules of Roberts would be great.
Thank you. I'm really done.
We're adjourned. For real.